this is dirt from my backyard. This is what happens in our life. There's so much noise. There's so much busyness. There's so much activity that this is what it often looks and feels like. It's swirling. It's mixed up. There's a lot going on. There's so many things.
Does your life ever feel like a jar of dirty water? Alumni, we're kicking off a brand new series today called Side Quests. And over the next 4 weeks, we're talking about common ways to spend our free time after graduation, how to do it with purpose, and we're starting with rest and retreat. Our guest today is my friend and colleague, Jonny Gose. He's part of InterVarsity's alumni team, and he's led a number of spiritual formation retreats during his time on staff. Today, he's going to share his own journey into rest and retreat after graduation, including how a jar of dirty water transformed the way that he thinks about slowing down with Jesus. And he's going to walk us through some practical ways to build a rhythm of rest that not only fits this season of your life, but also becomes a rhythm that you never want to miss moving forward. Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. I'm your host and guide, John Steele, and this one's for you, alumni. Jonny, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, good to be with you, John.
Yeah, super excited to have you. It's been, it's been a minute since you and I have gotten to record an episode together. So I'm excited just to get to hang out in this context.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Jonny, you are actually helping us kick off a new series that we're doing called Side Quests. And we're talking about the ways that we spend our time outside of work. Not that we want to overdo it on saying work is the main thing, but we do spend a ton of our waking hours at work. So then what do we do with the time that's left? And so we have some recommendations for people. And you're going to help us lean into talking about rest and retreat as one of those things. And so I'm wondering, before we dive into like the mechanics of it all and maybe some practical things, can you just kick us off with like maybe a story of your experience stepping into life after graduation, what that was like, sort of incorporating, and this can be really inspiring or can be very relatable, whatever story you have to tell. Like I rocked at this or I did not rock at it, whichever it is. And like, what's something you wish you had known in that season that you know now?
Yeah. It's kind of funny how hard it is to rest.
Yes.
When we talk about rest, and it feels kind of funny to talk about it because the very fact that we're talking about it is like, wow, what does that say about us as a people? Like, it's really hard to rest. It's really hard to know how to get good, true rest. And yes. I would say probably when I was graduating, I thought I knew what I needed to rest. I was good at playtime. I love to surf. I love to hang out with friends. And I knew how to play really well. And I think that's part of rest. But there was so much that I just didn't know yet in what God would do, like cultivating my life in this way, in my life with Him. I remember going to my first spiritual formation retreat. Even still, as a student in InterVarsity, I had never done a spiritual formation retreat. We had maybe had some trainings on Sabbath or things like that. But going into this retreat, I was excited. I had heard about it. I had heard staff loved it. I still remember it, that very first retreat. And I actually made this morning just for you, John.
Okay. Nice.
He got up in front of our staff and said, "This is what we're doing. This is what's making space and the time in silence is all about." And he held up a jar of dirt-filled water.
Yes. Which for our listeners, if you're not watching on YouTube or somewhere you can watch, Jonny is currently holding up a jar of dirty water.
This is dirt from my backyard, John. I got this, just for you.
Yes.
And he set this up on the little, table up front and said, "This is what happens in our life. There's so much noise. There's so much busyness. There's so much activity that this is what it often looks and feels like. It's swirling. It's mixed up. There's a lot going on. There's so many things." And then he sets it on the table and I'll set it on my table and we'll see what happens. We'll do a little experiment here, maybe during our time together. But he sets it on the table, and the next day after the silence, we come back, and sure enough, all the dirt had settled to the bottom, and it was clear. And that image, ever since that first retreat, has been ingrained in my brain as that's what we're talking about. That's what it's all about. Getting to that place of inner stillness with the Lord. Yeah. And that's where the magic happens. That's where transformation happens. That's where the clarity comes. And that's where I think rest happens. So we'll see what happens here with this.
Yes, I hope that enough separates so you can hold it up again and we can tell a difference. Maybe we can do a side-by-side shot. This is so. The other thing that's fascinating to me then is you think about this jar of dirt and dirty water. I mean, that literally the only thing that happens is that it's given space to stop moving. There's nothing that's being added to the jar, or there's no special technique. It is literally just stopping. And that's what's allowing the separation. And like that, even that is the reality of like when we step into silence, sometimes that's all that is needed is like just stop. This is not about orchestrating the perfect retreat with exactly the right timed elements and the right questions to be considering. It is like, it's just the goodness of stopping. And that allows things to settle and the Lord to separate. So you're already taking us in towards my next question here, Jonny, which is I'm wondering, can we speak a little bit to like obligation versus opportunity? Because I think all of us do have some sense of, it is good for me to take a break. I know it is, but sometimes that's what drives us is this sense of obligation. Can you speak to like the invitation or the opportunity that exists for rest and retreat and spiritual disciplines, big picture, that feels like an invitation to come home as opposed to like, you better do this or you're going to be in trouble?
Yeah, absolutely. And such an important question, because I think on some level, we probably all experience our spirituality in that way, with that dynamic at play, feeling like there's things we should do, things we're told we should do, pressure we put on ourselves we think we should do, things we just kind of pick up or hear or see other people do that maybe partly inspires us, but we compare ourselves and feel like, well, that person's doing that, maybe I should do that, right? So there's all these ways that obligation can kind of creep in. And I'll start off by saying this. I don't think, I feel pretty confident in it. I don't think anyone has ever experienced transformation out of obligation.
Wow. Yes. Yes. Certainly not at the core. Like maybe there are actions that you do, like I will do something different as opposed to I will be different.
Yeah, and I think the key lies in, and we see this through Scripture and the life of Jesus, is that God cares much more about our heart and what's going on in our heart than anything we can do externally. Anything and that applies to our spiritual life. We can have a lot of religious activity, the quote unquote religious activity, that can be good in and of itself. It's not that it's bad. We can study scripture. We can do, camps and conferences. We can go to church. We can be a part of a Bible study group. And those are all good and important parts of following Jesus. Yeah. But they're more engaging. They're more active. There's a different mode of being sometimes that can get missed in that is equally as important. And that's the abiding. A life verse passage for me has been John 15. I am the vine and you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing, right? And he's saying, abide in me, abide in me. And I have gotten super into gardening. I love gardening.
Nice.
We turned our whole front yard into a garden, but God has just used that kind of, and the scriptures are rich with kind of nature and agricultural metaphors, because I think there's something about spiritual growth that we see in nature. Nature itself teaches us something about God and his kingdom, in that the organic nature of creation shows us that some things can't be rushed. Some things just take time. Some processes just have to happen the way they happen. A tree can only become a tree over years and years and years and years of slow, steady growth, right? And in gardening, just little things, I've learned that if you over fertilize or over water or it gets too much light, you actually either stunt its growth or kill it. And you can't, there's certain things you just can't rush. There's some things we can do. You can, have good soil. You can water it. You can kind of learn to work with the organic nature of creation and cultivate it, but you can't rush it. There's just some things you can't rush. And so opportunity, when I think of opportunity versus obligation, it really draws me back to noticing more what are your desires versus what are the shoulds. Paying attention to desire over shoulds, and letting that desire then shape what steps you want to take to be intentional in your spiritual life. There's some things, when we hear that word spiritual disciplines, discipline has always been a word for me that I don't like. Some people like it. It's helpful for some. I don't like disciplines. I don't like regular routine. I'm a little more spontaneous. I'm a little more, artistic at times. I like kind of free flowing, and I've learned that's kind of how I even approach my retreat days. And yet, sometimes I need a little structure. I need a little discipline. So there's a desire I do have there, but I can't just work out regularly and follow someone else's routine because I think I should. Right? I've got it for me. Discover, okay, what works for me? What time of day works? What kind of workouts are fun? And so for me, that's gravitated towards I love to surf. I love to be outdoors. I go paddling. I love to do stuff with my kid. I have 3 kids. So, I incorporate little bike rides with my kids, or there's ways of kind of figuring out what does that look like for me that more so feels it leans into the opportunity versus the obligation. I think that's true for our spiritual life too. It's paying attention to our desire. And rather than obligation, thinking about invitation. What are God's invitations that he is offering you as it comes to rest and retreat and abiding in him and cultivating that life with him, where you are spiritually and emotionally and physically the healthiest version of yourself and the best version of yourself, and content and flourishing and thriving. And he has that life for you. And that's true. God has that life for each and every one of us. And so what does it look like to discover God's invitation into that and respond out of that versus any other obligations, either from others or ourselves?
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that perspective, because it does feel so much more freeing. It feels invitational, like you said. Examine the desires, and what does that teach you about the way that God has designed you, or the opportunities that you have to engage with him based on the stuff that you're already longing for, the stuff that you already enjoy doing, as opposed to, Angela down the street does it this way. So, and she really speaks highly of her rhythm. So that's the way I got to do it, because it must be the one right way. And I also, I think that there's an element of, we talked about this on the podcast before, and it's I think there's sometimes what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a sense that however I did it while I was on campus with my chapter and it worked, then I'll copy and paste. And then it doesn't work because our schedule is not the same. Our rhythms are not the same. Even our needs, the ways that we need to engage and be thoughtful, are not the same. And I think we can get frustrated because we're that's the way to do it. It always worked, and now it doesn't for some reason. And it feels to me like you're giving an invitation to flexibility, an invitation to examining and testing and trying and putting the pieces together in that way. And also just being I'm going to figure this out over time. What matters is that I am responding to the invitation to lean in with the Lord.
Yeah, and I love that. And just to speak to kind of what you mentioned for a second, there are times in all of our journey that it is really helpful for people to kind of just tell us what to do.
Yes,
there
absolutely.
Are stages where where it's like, I don't know.
Sort of what we're doing here today, John.
Can you tell me how to study the Bible? Yeah. Yes. Where it is a little direction is helpful. And so it's not to say, throw it all out, whatever anyone has ever told you to do, or whatever rhythms you had before. There are things that work. There's patterns and rhythms that people have more or less kind of discovered. And really, this goes back to kind of the ancient followers of Jesus himself, the early church. There are some core rhythms, core ways of being in the world that we can find, and then more or less that we all need. And we all need some way of engaging with God in those ways. And at the same time, discovering what does that look like for me in my context, in my schedule. And there's seasons of life where you're absolutely right. Some practices, spiritual disciplines that maybe worked well for us in one season may not work for us in the same way in another season of life. And there's a lot of reasons that could happen. So absolutely, if that's you, if that's happened, my encouragement is don't let that discourage you. You're not doing something wrong. That's actually really normal. It's really normal. If your morning quiet time that used to work for you, a certain way of doing quiet time, worked for you, and that just seems like it's just not doing it anymore, that is super normal. You're not doing something wrong. God has not left you or forsaken you. There is probably something God is doing in you that's new, and a new season of growth and a new season of invitation that he has for you, that as you press into that and explore that with curiosity, with intentionality, I have 100% confidence that you will discover the new thing and the new ways of being with God that he does have for you, that are just even richer and even deeper and more beautiful. And so that just to name that and as an encouragement there too.
Yeah, that's so great. I'm grateful that is the sense that you have, and thank you for sort of pulling us back towards the middle a little bit on that, because we don't want it to feel like, wow, anybody that gives me input on this, it's not my way of doing it, so I don't need to listen to them. Nah, like receive wise counsel and then be thoughtful about the way that you include it and incorporate it. So then, in the realm of wise counsel here, and maybe some very specific options, I wonder, Jonny, do you have any practical tips or recommendations that you would give to alumni for kind of getting the ball rolling on this? And I know that we have some really cool resources as well that I'm hoping you will that you'll offer up for alumni to engage in as well. So practical tips and some resources, anything that comes to mind?
Yes, absolutely. Now that I just told you, you don't have to do what other people tell you to do, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Exactly. Yes.
Couple of things. Very practically, like one rhythm of rest is Sabbath. So if that's something you've never done or never explored, I really encourage you to check that out. To experiment, try that on Sabbath, and I'll talk about a couple of practicals of what that could look like. The other is retreat. It could be a retreat in silence or a retreat day or a couple days. So those are two kind of key practices. It's amazing to think about that God actually is the one that instituted the rhythm of Sabbath, that came from him interacting with his people, saying there is a way of being in the world. There is a rhythm of work and rest. And I won't go into this long, but God actually created work. In the garden, in Eden, God created work. And in our work, he created rest. God himself in the creation story, right, is working and creating and doing beautiful work and resting, right? Yeah. And just savoring and enjoying. And so there is a redeemed, beautiful picture of work and rest. So Sabbath comes out of that. Jesus doesn't say, do away with Sabbath. He actually affirms the Sabbath. He says the Sabbath man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man, right? Yeah. And so he encourages us to continue practicing in that rhythm. And in that, we are reminded first and foremost, who is our King? What is the one true kingdom? Who are we truly as human beings? Our first and foremost identity as daughters and sons of God, as ones loved by God and adored by God. And it reminds us who we are and who we belong to. And so if it is not a regular practice of yours, and it's hard, I get it, but start somewhere and try Sabbath and try a retreat day. So a couple other practical things with that is I have found, I mentioned early on in my staff life, we had these rhythms. We did them 3 times a year of these spiritual formation retreats, and we would go away for a couple nights. And those were awesome. I absolutely loved it. Over time, as we started having kids, we now have 3 kids, and life changed, responsibilities changed. It got harder and harder, especially for my wife and I both together, to be able to fully participate together in those retreat spaces. And I have found in this season of my life, and many people I've talked to have found more so like a monthly retreat day, single day, a really helpful rhythm. And so I offer that to you, something to consider, a monthly retreat day. And if it's new, starting with a couple hours or a half day is a great way to start. But being able to work into just a full day from getting up to dinner time or evening, going to bed, just a full day. And someone like me that likes the spontaneity, that likes to try different things, that doesn't want to feel stuck into rigid structure, I have found that just having the retreat day as a structure in my calendar, I pick as best I can, like the, first Saturday of the month or something like that. And just, it's in there. I put it on repeat in my calendar. So it just automatically is there. If I really have to, I can reschedule it or something like that. But it's just there. But I have found it as a great kind of umbrella practice that then allows me to play around with and experiment with other kinds of practices during my retreat day. And so maybe there's other things I want to try, or things I want to read, or ways of, being with the Lord, trying breath prayer, trying imaginative prayer, trying different contemplative practices, trying, going out in nature and doing something, having hobbies and playtime as part of it, studying scripture sometimes. And so there's some things I've discovered along the way for myself that I tend to gravitate towards, and you will too. That's my encouragement for anyone is start somewhere, experiment, and you will discover, what works for you. And more often than not, you'll probably end up having a rhythm of, I kind of do these like 2 or 3 main things. And that does it for me. Right. So the most practical thing is get it in your calendar. And then last thing I'll say on the practical side is make it fun. Make it something you really look forward to. Yes. Like sometimes I think maybe this is an InterVarsity thing, but we can be really serious people sometimes.
We can. You're absolutely right.
There's nothing wrong. Like there are some serious things with our spiritual life to pay attention to, but it can also be really fun. And so for me, I go surfing. I start out my retreat day going surfing, and then I'll go have lunch or grab a coffee at just a really cool coffee shop I want to hang out in for a little bit and journal or something, or the whole treat yourself kind of thing, right? It's maybe you're a foodie. I'm like a semi foodie. Maybe I'm the only one in my family. So we really don't go out to eat very much. So for me, retreat days have become my treat yourself lunch kind of time. I'll find a fun place I want to eat, or eat something that my family doesn't normally want to eat or something.
That's awesome.
And and just get a fun lunch or something. So it's kind of it's my date with God that day, right? Yeah. And so it's
that's really good.
What do you want to do? That just sounds fun, a fun way to be with God. And I think that's a great way to think about it, and especially as you're starting out. So last encouragement with that is trust in the slow work of God. Right. And whatever you do, whatever practices you do, the purpose is to be with God, to just enjoy being with God, to rest in his love for you, to rest in his presence. And just like a good friend, you can have stupid fun together. You could laugh over dumb jokes. You could see something silly in your day that happens. or you could cry together. You could have a somber moment together. You could have just a simple moment of stillness together. Like a good friend, just sitting on the couch together with no words, just sitting near each other, just enjoying the presence of not just anyone, but the God who created you, your most trusted, safe, loving, peaceful presence, and just being. And
awesome.
So trust in the slow work of God. If you're especially starting out, you will very likely have retreats that feel a little disappointing afterwards, where you're like, I didn't quite accomplish what I hoped it did.
Yep,
you might feel restless. You might feel a little bit like, I don't want to waste my time. I got to be productive. Like, I have absolutely been there. I can still struggle with that sometimes. Or you might have questions you want answers to, and you might not get the answers in that time. That's okay. Trust in the slow work of God. It's more about creating a rhythm of being with God. And in the rhythm of being with God, you will discover over time growth. You will grow in self-awareness. You will grow in awareness of God's voice and movement in your life. And you will grow in awareness of all the maybe ways that our world wants to form you in its brokenness, and become more and more aware of your true self and God's invitation of how He is forming you in the beauty of who you are and who He created you to be. And it takes time, And so we started with we had our dirt jar earlier on. It's not whole lot clearer.
No,
but you can see.
I can absolutely tell the difference. Yeah.
There we go. A little bit of clarity. Just to say, it takes a little more time than maybe one podcast episode. Sorry, John.
That's all right. This is still proof of concept. This is awesome. Jonny, by way of like sort of a final word for people, we have we have some materials that people can use. So especially for our alumni that are like, no, please give me some handholds. I don't want to go out and just figure this out all on my own quite yet. Yeah. Can you just name those couple of resources that we have on hand for people before we sign off?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one thing that we have for alumni is an alumni retreat guide. There's a kind of brief version of that, especially if this is new to you. That can be a great place to start. The other thing that is just a fun kind of in the realm of either treat yourself or treat somebody else is our retreat kit. And so it's a cool, you get a little unboxing experience there.
Yes.
And I get a nice journal and our more kind of robust retreat guide with some spiritual practices you can try. And really, it gives you what I would call a loose structure that you can follow throughout your retreat day. And so what's nice about that is you have some guidance. You have a little bit of structure of how you can shape your retreat day. It talks about how to prepare for a retreat day, how to kind of a flow that you can follow. But there's also some wiggle room. You can kind of plug and play different practices or different things you want to try in that as well. So hopefully it's a nice blend for the mix of us out there, that those of us that want some more structure, want some more guidance there, it has that. And then those of us that want a little more spontaneity or creativity, there's room for that in there too. And so I think it's a great place to start. And I hope it's a gift to you.
That's awesome. We will we'll make sure that those links to those land in the show notes for people so that they can give those a look and get something ordered. Jonny, thanks a lot for being with us today. Do you have any final just pastoral encouragement for people before we say goodbye?
It sounds simple, and yet it's something I keep coming back to, that as simple as it sounds, it's something that no matter how long you've been following Jesus and how experienced you are in, cultivating intimacy and a life with God, that you can really never do enough or hear enough of. And that is simply the profoundness of God's love for you. And resting and sitting with and dwelling in God's love for you. That God's love for you is not at all because of what you do. Our world we find our value in our career, in our life, in our relationships, the world tells us we find our value in what we do, what we offer, what we produce. That is a lie. That is a lie of the brokenness of our world. And your worth and your value are because God has said so. Because your Father in heaven has created you, has knit you together in your mother's womb, and loves you deeply. Just like his words to Jesus at his baptism saying, "This is my son with whom I'm well pleased," before Jesus did any earthly ministry. There is nothing we can do to earn that. There is nothing we can do to work for it. We can't, our job is not to create that for ourselves in some way. It is to simply receive. It is to simply receive. And so my biggest hope and encouragement for you is just learning to simply abide in that love, in the love of God for you. And that is the place where your fears, your anxieties, your insecurities, all the things of this world will fall off, and you will find rest, and you will find renewal, and you will find the transformation God has for you. And when you find that, you become that. You become like Jesus in that way. And you then offer that to the world. And you offer that to the world. And our world is not at all in need of more people telling us what we should do or what we should believe or what we should think. It's full of that. It's a very noisy world. Our world is desperately in need of people that have embodied and carry and embody that non-anxious, loving, peaceful presence of the Holy Spirit. And the only way we do that is by abiding in it ourselves. So that's my pastoral word, is rest in the love of Jesus. Let Jesus love you. Let him love you. Let him love you. Let him love you. And you can never get enough of that.
Alumni, how do you feel about making rest and retreat a regular part of your side questing rhythms after graduation, to provide space where the dirt settles and the water becomes a little bit clearer? All you have to do is put down the jar. And the great news is you can put it down in a way that's totally unique to you. For Jonny, it's including some time for surfing and enjoying a meal that he doesn't often get to eat while he quiets himself and spends some extended, intentional time connecting with God. What would your version be of that? Because there is a version that exists. The Sabbath was made for you. It was made for us. And it's a great gift. Jonny mentioned 2 resources that you might find helpful: an alumni retreat guide, that's a great starting point if this is new for you, and a retreat kit that comes with a journal and a full day guide if you want to go a little bit deeper. Both links are in the show notes to help you get started. Jonny, thank you so much for helping us kick off our Side Quest series in such a thoughtful and practical way. I'm so grateful for you. Alumni, be sure to come back next week for episode 2 in our Side Quest series as we explore investing as a way to spend our time after graduation. And we're going to be joined by the guest of our most listened to episode since launching After 4 almost 6 years ago. I think you're going to want to hear what he has to say on the topic. Until then, consider sharing this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and I will see you in the after, alumni. Thanks for listening to After 4. This podcast is brought to you by the InterVarsity Alumni Relations Team, hosted and produced by John Steele, production assistance by Mike Zentera, edited by Caleb Leppert, and our After 4 theme music was written and performed by John Steele.